Thanks, Matt, for agreeing to just have this discussion and record it. We had just a very brief kind of intro talking to kind of catch up because it's been a while. But
Yeah.
can you just share however you want who you are, what you do, and what you're working on? Whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah. My name's Matt Curtis. I run a business called Lunchtime Heroes, which very obviously by the name works with churches. I've been in ministry since 2004, and in 2022 kind of went out on my own and started serving churches in a variety of capacities. Most of it's creative. As a graphic designer, early in my career, that's what my degree is in from school. And that was really kind of the way that I got into ministry. And so I've spent the vast majority of my time in ministry, kind of helping ministry leaders build ministries or communicate ministries or, be involved in that portion. But there's always been this little angsty part of me, not just because I'm a creative, probably also because I'm a creative, but this piece of me that's always wanted to build my own thing. And so I have this long resume of side projects. Whenever I tell people what I'm working on, they're like, okay, I guess it has nothing to do with anything that you're doing, professionally. And I'm like, it'll all come around. And so far it has. They've all kind of like re-intersected, a little bit.
Yeah.
And so the thing really that I'm, that we're kind of talking about most that I'm working on now is called GuildLink. It's a social platform for gamers. The emphasis is on social media and also game discovery. And the little note about me starting in ministry in 2004 is fairly important, just because that's right around when Facebook started, period. Like that's when it was in its very, very early stages, not yet, available to the masses kind of thing. And so all of my career in communications has been wrestling with this tension of how do we leverage social media? And throughout that, there's been seasons where I have said, I love social media. And then there have been seasons more recently where I've said, this is gross. I'm so tired of what social media has become. And so there's this kind of naivete that I'm approaching this project with, where I want to create what I think social media could be and should have been through this platform specifically for gamers. And so it's like super privacy focused. Everything's visible. Like the way that the algorithm works is visible to the user. So if you get a recommendation, you see why you got that recommendation. Currently, I'm in the process of actually like visualizing what all is feeding into your recommendation engine, like the personal one that's kind of cultivated for you. And so like no tracking off the website, all these kind of ideals that so far are working. We'll see if that continues to be feasible, but that's the value. And so, yeah, so I mean, that's really kind of the shift for me, is like, what if I could build something that was kind of purely the ideal that I have in my mind? And I love video games. They're super fun. So let's attack that, So yeah, so that's kind of where I am right now. And the big side project that I'm working on with a secret, deep down, or to use AI language, a quiet hope that this becomes something. This becomes a platform that can be a source of revenue and be something to really invest in. And I think ultimately to help people find games that they enjoy playing themselves and also playing with others.
Yeah. Seems like just a natural thing. You start off working for the church as a graphic designer, and now
Yeah.
you're a social media
Yeah.
gamer,
Obviously.
builder, right?
Yeah. 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 They say find a niche, right? I mean,
Right.
I
Yeah.
feel like it might be a niche of one or maybe like two or three, but yeah. So
No, that's actually, I think that's cool. I think that's a great strategy. You could have been like, I'm just going to redo all of social media and I'm going to create this thing, right? That's impossible. You're going to
yeah.
try to
Yeah.
outcompete Facebook, right? But you find a niche so that you're
Yeah.
going to do it in. I think that's cool. And
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that there was a season in my career as I was kind of researching, like, where do I think web's gonna go? This was, I think, Web 2.0. So where is this sort of trajectory going? And everything was becoming a conglomerate. And then there was kind of this point where it seemed like everything was going to go into these like fragments. And so the niche was really going to be, you would have an entire platform based on, photography, and then further types of photography. You started seeing some of that in like different forums and things like that. Like Reddit is that way. You have Reddit proper, and then you have your threads around a game. And then in some cases, even like smaller threads kind of connected to that. And what I've been seeing with a lot of the major social platforms is that they're fighting really hard to try to be both of those things. The challenge is that the ecosystem exists around engagement and attention and time. And what I'm recognizing as a gamer is that that actually works exactly opposite of the way I want it to on a platform. I mean, I'll use the F word, Facebook. So like if I'm on Facebook, I'm going to be scrolling. Their goal is to keep me as long as possible. But as a gamer, I'm looking to go and play games. So maybe I want to find a game and then go play it. So there's this tension that's actually becoming more and more felt, and I think more and more visible for users, where the platform's values are diametrically opposed to the user's values. And so I'm trying to create something that is just gaming. And so right now, if I'm on Facebook, I see a hilarious clip. I'm playing a game called Arc Raiders. So I see a hilarious clip, this guy, whatever, some unfortunate situation happens. I laugh because it happens to me all the time. And then, Betty is over here complaining about the latest political, whatever. And I'm like, okay, I was just laughing at this guy and relating to this character. And now all of a sudden I'm being thrown down this kind of rabbit trail of things I don't care about. And so that's really kind of the vision behind it is, what if we just purged all of that other stuff? And I'm allowed to do that because I haven't built a model on attention. I'm not building a model on time and attention. I'm building a model on quality of discovery. And then long-term in terms of advertising. Advertising targets the games that people are playing. So you advertise against Arc Raiders. You don't advertise against Matt living in central Pennsylvania, age, whatever. So that information is not a part of the conversation. Instead, it's what do these people enjoy doing? Because that's what an indie developer wants. They want their game in front of the people that would like their game. Yeah. That's all we're trying to get at. So there's a lot of kind of things that I'm taking a right turn when they took a left turn, or I'm going the opposite direction intentionally. And so far, it's really kind of evolved into something that's really compelling, at least to me. The people who have been using it have enjoyed it, and we're really early on. And so it's still kind of growing and evolving and finding its footing. But I think there's a lot of really interesting potential for it. And it all kind of goes back to a lot of what I saw in my time in ministry, which is build something that aligns with your values. Build something that you believe in, because when you do that, the result will be attractive to other people who believe that same thing and care about those same values. And I think that's one of the biggest threats that every builder faces. Well, I can't be successful on YouTube unless I have the crazy face kind of icon, thumbnail, or if my content's not way over the top, like why this game is the worst game ever made in the history of humanity. It's like, that feels like what it takes to be successfso. And that's not who I am. In our conversations, you're like, that's not who you are. And so you're either doomed to never be successful, or maybe there's a different way, And so in this season for me, I'm really pushing hard into what if I could build this different way? So
that's cool. Typically most of my conversations go down the line of AI somewhere, right? I mean, I feel like there's two kind of ways we could go about talking about this. From the business perspective, you said something about like really narrowing in. I think I'm wondering, is that where, like, with AI approaching this ability for us to kind of all build what we want to, there's going to be a million people that want to build something. Does that mean we do need to really drill in even more? It makes me wonder if you're kind of onto something with that. And what will that look like if we do have multiple versions of social media, right? Like drilling in. What does that look like in the future if that's the case? I'm sure you've been thinking about this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. So there was a conversation that I kind of stumbled across. I think it was probably a post on LinkedIn, and there's a little bit of dialogue about it, but everyone's trying to kind of guess, like, what does the future look like? So I'm again, graphic designer. That means that like literally my whole industry, like Mid-Journey was the first kind of serious threat to everything that I do. And it was incredible in a lot of ways, and it created images that looked remarkable. Even in the kind of like the early days of it. That's this is not breaking news. It's only gotten better, dramatically better. And so I'm watching my peers. I'm watching the industry that has been my livelihood for my entire professional life just kind of vanish in a blink of an eye. Now, It's not to say that it's all going away. I think that designers have a place. I still have plenty of design work that I'm doing. So like, it's not like all of a sudden everybody's out of work, but there's some really kind of complicated questions that people are asking about the future of a lot of these industries. So I feel weirdly fortunate that I have, 20, 25 years of design experience, because I can wield these tools differently, and I can see problems with the things that are being creative that most users don't see. Be totally transparent here. If a developer looks at the code that I'm that I have created, I don't know if that's the right word, the code that is driving GuildLink, honestly, there'd probably be a similar conversation. Like, wow, Matt, there's a lot of code in here for things that you aren't using anymore. I'm like, oh yeah, that was version 102. We're on version 1046, and so didn't even know that was in there, so I get it. Like, I'm not, kind of judging one way or the other, but there is this question of like, okay, well, how do you position yourself for the future? And I think there are a few distinctives that really are going to be things that endure in this sort of next era of this flexible, individualized creation. I think absolutely your values are going to matter a ton. So if you have the option to use a social platform that takes as much of your data as possible and sells it, or a social platform that doesn't, you now have a choice that you didn't have back when Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, like when all of these platforms were emerging, they were incredible and they were unique. And people tried to beat them, but couldn't, because it takes so much money to build these things. Well, now that's not quite as true. In terms of the values now, your values are going to drive things. The other part of it is human connection. AI can't create that for me. GuildLink could be a masterpiece. It could be in the Louvre in 200 years. And if I can't get users, human beings participating on this platform, being benefited and forming, in some senses, meaningful relationships or getting meaningful recommendations and benefit for their own kind of hobby and pursuits, the things they enjoy doing, when it comes to gaming, then it will not be successful. And so there's still that demand of human connection, community, and then GuildLink doesn't necessarily kind of speak to this one, I guess, at least at this point. Obviously, I could dream up some wild dream to make it fit, but the in-person element, the human to human, that's a really important piece. I think that as we talk more and more with the robot or work more and more with the robot, that piece of a little bit of the unpredictable that humanity brings to the table, I think that that's going to be really valued. I will say that's part of the philosophy around GuildLink, is that the algorithm doesn't look at buying behavior, because it's not a sales platform or anything. It just looks at what you enjoyed and what you're talking about. And so it really is trying to figure out a way to only compare and recommend based on other people and what they've enjoyed. And so the premise is, if I enjoyed Elden Ring, if you're a gamer, you know what that means. But if I enjoyed Elden Ring and I also enjoyed Animal Crossing, that's a super weird overlap, but maybe it's actually really common. We don't know that until we start comparing what users or, what gamers are actually enjoying. So I think there's a lot of really interesting exploration that can happen because people have these sort of random thoughts about things.
Yeah.
Leveraging AI is going to give a really unique opportunity to build these out in a way that really, I think, wouldn't be explored otherwise. This isn't a super unique idea in the sense that people care about privacy. There's actually a lot of different platforms out there that do like shelf management or kind of your game library management. So if you want a game library manager, GuildLink's not the best option. Those are better options. They're more robust. GuildLink is about social. It's about looking at the social experience around games. So it's what you talk about, the people that you're following, the reviews you're leaving, the comments that you're contributing to the conversation. Where are you gravitating in your interests? That helps fuel that recommendation engine. That's my theory. My theory is that the human holistic conversation around games is richer than just one ecosystem like Steam or Xbox or Nintendo. If you can get recommendations outside of each of those bubbles, that's more interesting. So that's a piece of my thesis, and that's what I'm building off of. And so I think it's exciting because if my thesis is wrong, I won't win, or I won't have a competitive product, and maybe something else will emerge and it will become, wow, yeah, this is the standard. This is a better way of thinking about it. And then I look at this as competition in the sense that then we all benefit, right? Then my tool isn't the winner, but I get a tool that's better than that. That seems pretty cool. So I think it does give a lot of runway to some of these kind of maybe maybe not necessarily contrarian theories, but it's harder for the market to control them. And I think that's a little bit of what's happened, at least in the social space. The market has controlled the way that social profitability works. And so all of the platforms have very similar models in terms of monetization and profit, is to get you addicted and to send as many ads your way as possible. And I don't like that. So a contrarian view now can be built with the help of a tool like AI, in my case, Claude. And so that to me is really exciting, because I love it when these long held beliefs that a lot of people seem to disagree with, people can actually begin to make practical, movement. I don't have the venture capital to hire an army of devs and promise investors a payback. And like, I can't do that. Sorry, I have to go about it a different way. And now I can, which I think is super exciting.
I think it's great that we all now have this ability to at least create our initial idea and continue to build on it. So I'm excited to see where it goes for you and hear more as you continue to build on to version 1000 and whatever you're on.
Yeah.
One thing you said in there, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but there's this kind of way that I'm thinking about with AI being everywhere, and this pertains to social media, where even on social media now, who are you really interacting with? You may not like. There's just bots, and this has been around for a while, for sure. And AI is just going to continue to make it that way, and social media is really moving way away from actually truly being social, right? It's more of just like people want to watch videos and whatever people like. But it makes me think that maybe social media really, like the next up and coming thing, needs to truly be social. If we're always interacting with bots, and what does it look like to actually interact with humans? I think there's going to be value in that, like the true community at some point where we're swinging this direction of like just being way involved in just bots and non-humans. So how valuable is real human connection going to be? And have you thought about this in what you're building?
Yeah. So what's interesting to me about this whole process, I actually started with philosophy. And so that was all of what I had conversations with Claude, was basically developing philosophy documents around everything that I'm going to be building over the long haul, before I even had a full sense of even what I have today. And the philosophy really is it's how do we prioritize human over all of the other things. I think a part of what has been a complication with social media, kind of the established group, is that there's this, I call it a false promise, but maybe it's a cynical take. It's like, oh, well, Matt hasn't been successful as an influencer, that's why. But there is this kind of false promise of fame and wealth where you can become an influencer. And if you post regularly, like, you can be financially rewarded. The reality is that's super, super difficult to pull off. But I think what it's done is it's created this environment where there are things like engagement baiting. And I mean, I think that's where rage baiting and clickbait, like all of this stuff it's actually incentivized because attention is the goal. Facebook, et cetera. It's not just Facebook, all of them. They just want your eyeballs on the platform for as long as possible, because then they can serve you more ads. That's the goal. And so they're trying to find ways to facilitate conversation as long as it benefits that end goal. So that's their vision, But I think that they're riding that line between what facilitates and what hinders, and they'll be happily up against the line. I'm like so far the other way. I would choose to not maximize profits in order to favor human relationships and the facilitation of that. And so I agree with you. I think the purity of the platform's ability to protect the human side of it, the human-to-human relationships, that to me is, I think, a really important facet of that. And I think as soon as you dangle that carrot of you can become famous, you can become whatever through the platform, it corrupts. I mean, it's like any relationship, right? If you meet somebody and they're super famous, like, it just sort of, you think to yourself, I wonder if they could get me into this door. Or, hey, I wonder if they know these people. Or I wonder if they could, like, there's sort of this obsession with kind of the next step for so many people. And I think that's a way to kind of to cloud the purity or the honesty of approaching a relationship. And this actually hard swing back to church, to church world.
Yeah.
When we moved from Southern California to Pennsylvania, we started attending a new church. And I'm from church world. And so the first things, I should probably meet with the campus pastor. So I meet with the campus pastor, kind of tell him my background, where I come from, hear his story as well. And I said, look, man, I don't know how I feel right now about church. Like, I'm not ready to kind of like step back into a church job, but I just want you to know, like, I'm here and I'm available. And he said, you know what, Matt, don't do anything. And I was like, well, okay, I don't, what? He said, just engage however you feel is appropriate, but just come and worship, participate, like be a part of the church. Don't worry about, leading. Don't worry about any of these kinds of things. And he said, for all I know, this is a season where God has you here to heal and kind of recover, then go back out again. And maybe this is where you'll be for the rest of your kind of life, career, ministry, whatever. And what was really disarming to me about it was that there was no expectation on the relationship. And that was probably more healing than anything else that I could have heard from a sermon. And so I think similarly, if we can have relationships without conditions. So if somebody comments on my YouTube channel, is my first thought, I wonder what they said, and can I interact with them in a meaningful way? Or is it, this guy just helped me with the algorithm, and like he just, I need 10 more comments on average in order to hit my monetization target. Like we're kind of being reshaped in the way that we see human interaction. And so I think stripping away some of those incentivizers is a real effective way to do it. But to your point, absolutely. I think when we can leverage technology to facilitate, to help, to support, in some cases, even to kind of spark or begin human relationship, I think that's where the most value is going to be in the future, because talking to bots is just not rewarding.
Right. Yeah. Well, cool. Hey, I appreciate you jumping on and chatting with me about it. I think it's super cool what you've been able to build and as a non-dev. Any other thoughts before we go on things that you want to share about it?
I think for me, I started developing this on a call with a friend of mine. Ironically, he's a developer, but he knows I'm not like hiding this from him. I've been trying to convince him for years to jump in on this. But I just started with asking. So I was using Claude, just the not Claude code, but the talking one, where you just interact and chat. Yeah. And I said, hey, I've always thought it'd be really cool to have a social media platform that kind of looks at your gaming library as a resume, and then that colors and influences the recommendations that people get from your library. Is this something you could do? And so I start really far back when it comes to the way that I'm engaging these tools. And it's more of a like, hey, dream with me. And then I kind of let Claude sort of inform how far it's able to go. It's burned me in the past. I built a custom GPT with ChatGPT years ago, and it lied to me. It's like, I'm compiling. It took a week to compile, and at the end of it, it's like, oh yeah, I can't do that. So you can get burned, but I think this is the way to kind of explore the extents of what these tools can be. They can help you shoot a lot further, away from where you are than I know for me than I thought. I thought I was like, maybe it'll refine my LinkedIn posts. It's like, no, it will help me build something that I've always felt is important and valuable and a contribution to, the internet in a way. So I think dreaming a little bit with these tools is a good thing. And then when you layer your values in there and build an alignment with that, I think you can create something that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Cool. Well, last thought for you.
Yeah.
For this conversation, or a comment. I'm curious what you think as a gamer. I've never been a gamer, but I have a young son who's starting to be interested. And so I started playing Fortnite with him.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe you used the F word earlier. Yeah. Maybe that's a different F word. Cause I'm sure for true gamers, Fortnite's like way in the past, but I've been having fun being able to play with my son and interact in that way. So it's been great.
Yeah. Yeah. So I promise I won't talk a lot about it, but I think that's why Fortnite is so successful, because I play that with some of my friends as well. It's this really interesting kind of, I don't know, it's like a middle ground almost, where it's not as like hardcore as a lot of these other games, but that's part of why it's successful. So yeah, I mean, I think that where gaming used to be and where gaming is today is so much different. I mean, I was looking up a game the other day. It's called Satisfactory. You literally build a factory, and like, it's like a logistics simulator, and I'm like, that sounds terrible as a creative. I'm still kind of afraid of spreadsheets, but like, for some people that would be so incredibly fun. And so it's such a dynamic kind of environment now that Yeah, I mean, yeah, whatever gets you into it to me is a win, and that's your use case of it is beautiful to me. You know, you play with your kid. Like, I do the same thing with
Yeah.
my family. Like, we had a game that was a family game, so I think there's something so rich about it. You know, in terms of what it contributes. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. I love it.
I thought you might appreciate it. Well,
Yep.
thanks, man. Again,
Yeah, you bet.
appreciate you sitting down with me. This is a good conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am interested in where it goes. So keep me updated.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted. Yeah.
All right.